After taking this module, you will be able to define plain language, describe the benefit of writing in plain language, and name 3 needs of your audience. Hello, my name is Rebecca Schwartz. I'm a plain language consultant and I train people in workplace writing.
And I'm Jamie Gillenwater, and I'm excited to learn about plain language. Rebecca, what is plain language?
A communication is in plain language if the reader can find, understand, and use the information to meet their own needs. Plain language can be used in most workplace settings. The only documents that it is not appropriate for are longer reports. Because plain language suits the reader's needs, it is more likely to achieve its purpose, and this means that it can save money and time. Let's talk about some of the needs of an audience. The first thing that they need is to find out whether or not they should read on. They want to know if the document is relevant to them and whether they should put time into it. The next thing that they need is to find out what to do. They need to find out what to keep in mind as they read further in the document, and they need to find out what to keep in mind once they're finished. And lastly, let's always remember that one of their main needs is just to be done dealing with that document so they can get back to work.
So what are some things that prevent a reader from being able to find, understand, and use the information that they need?
It's a great question, and I want to introduce the concept of state-specific literacy. So if literacy refers to the ability of someone to read, state-specific literacy is actually more precise. And what it means is the ability of that reader to get what they need from that document in real time. So in other words, someone who has perfectly good literacy and can read any type of document may have reduced literacy because of this concept of state-specific literacy. Basically, if someone gets a phone call while they're reading your document, their state-specific literacy plummets. Another issue that we can point at with state-specific literacy can be stress. Sometimes if people are on a deadline, or let's say they're in a stressful situation like a health-related matter, and they're suddenly presented with something to read, their state-specific literacy goes down. So it falls to the writer to use the techniques of plain language to write so that no matter what the literacy level is of that audience at that moment that they're coming to the document, they'll still be able to get the takeaway and meet their own needs. So let's talk about what the writer might do that can really sort of work against the reader's interests. The first thing is an expression kind of from journalism, which is burying the lead. Whatever that main message is does not come at the top of the document. So in using plain writing, the solution that you are using is to know who your audience is and know what the purpose is of your document.
Okay, can you give me an example of that?
Let's look at this somewhat long passage from a study by the Coast Guard and see if we can figure out who the audience is and what the purpose of this passage is. The Coast Guard has conducted an investigation to determine what carbon monoxide detection devices are available to recreational boaters, such that when installed and activated, could reduce the risk of being exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide, that silent killer. A variety of technologies is available for detecting the presence of carbon monoxide on boats and should be considered by recreational boaters to reduce their risk of injury or death while boating. Can you tell me who the audience is for this document?
I think it might be the recreational boaters.
That's exactly right. The Coast Guard is attempting to communicate an important new fact to recreational boaters. Can you figure out what the purpose is? Why did the Coast Guard create this document for recreational boaters?
Let's see. Is it to explain carbon monoxide to the boaters?
That is very close.
Okay.
The Coast Guard wants boaters to understand that they can choose from a variety of devices to detect carbon monoxide on their boats. And carbon monoxide is so dangerous that they want to alert people that they should choose a carbon monoxide detection device.
Okay, that makes sense. But it's kind of hidden there. How would we write it so that it's more clear?
That is the right question to ask. The Coast Guard did not attempt to put this language into plain writing. Let's see what they can do when they instead take the approach of sort of boiling it down to meet the audience's needs.
Okay.
Here is a plain language rewrite of that same passage, and I'll read it out loud. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer. Use a carbon monoxide detection device on your boat to reduce the risk of being exposed to high levels of carbon monoxide. The Coast Guard wants you to know that you may choose from a variety of devices.
It's definitely shorter, so I know that's going to save me some time when I'm reading it, which is helpful, and it's more direct.
Right, and if the purpose, again, is to save lives, would you say that that purpose stands out?
Yes. In the very first sentence, it emphasizes killer, that carbon monoxide is a silent killer.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll note in the second sentence there's a command. The Coast Guard is telling the reader outright what to do. The word there is use. Use that device on your boat. So it's very firm, and that command comes first.
Yes.
So those are two techniques of plain language to emphasize that main message up front and to emphasize the action that the reader should take up front. Let's look at a second example. Am I eligible for continued foster care services? By law, states can choose to receive federal reimbursement for providing foster care after the age of 18 and up to age 21 for costs related to supporting young people who opt to remain in foster care. As such, an increasing number of states now allow youth to remain in or return to foster care after they emancipate. Still, eligibility for continued foster care services varies by state and program. It is important to find out whether your state offers extended care. Many youths are eager to distance themselves from the foster care system as soon as they are legally allowed. However, staying in care past age 18 can have many benefits. Talk to your caseworker to find out about whether you are eligible for extended foster care services and how accessing these services might help you. So let's look at this passage from the reader's perspective. The very first line, am I eligible for continued foster care services, gives us our clue about who the audience is for this passage. Who would you say is the audience?
Someone who is currently using foster care services.
Exactly. What would you say was the purpose of the U.S. Department of Education in publishing this passage for that audience?
It seems to be encouraging someone who's currently using the foster care services to continue to use those services as long as they're eligible.
Yes, and can you point to that main message?
It's towards the very end. It doesn't mention that there's benefits in continuing the care until the second to last sentence.
Exactly. So we can say that this passage is not in plain language, but I'm going to show you now a rewrite in plain language. Am I eligible for continued foster care services? Talk to your caseworker to find out about whether you are eligible for extended foster care services. It is important to find out what your state offers you. So here we can see that the question was answered right away. In the very first sentence, that reader can see what action they are to take. So in both of those examples, we saw that the plain language version had a start command. For the Coast Guard, it was the word use a device. And then for the foster care youth, it was talk to your caseworker. Right. The bottom line is that in plain writing, the writer should never be afraid to give instructions because you're trying to serve the reader's needs, and often, again, the need is to know what to do. So making your instructions stand out and making them very plain is part of plain writing. So you might use commands such as click the save option, or you can address the reader directly by using the word you, as in you can now click the save option. 2 more points to remember when you are giving instructions as part of your plain language document is to always number the steps and don't omit any steps.
If plain language is all about meeting the needs of your readers, it really makes sense to write clear instructions.